Ellis, the acquisition manager. So this is one of the biggest things that a lot of acquisition managers, even realtors or even wholesalers, this is the biggest thing you face is so you have a good deal or you have a good offer, but it's not perfect example. This is a property that this is a amount of leads. We have 29 leads that the terms did not match. They didn't align together. Maybe they want a higher 50. Maybe they wanted a higher down payment, but they did want to do the equity structure. The equity structures allow sellers to get the 50 to 60% down, but there's a catch. Where there's great level of responsibility, there's risk there, and most realtors and most people, they want to reduce the amount of risk, which is fair. So that's one of the biggest hurdles that you run into, or an individual, they want a 6% interest rate and the cash flow doesn't support 3%. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't support what you're asking. So therefore, I would just be spending money just to own the property. I wouldn't be making a profit back from it. So the purple people that gave us the runaround. So 10 people, 10 leads gave us the runaround out of 129. So three people were where we need to restructure it, rechange the structure. Maybe we were looking at it for Steven as the operator, but this lead may be better for Flipman because he's a wholesaler. So the structure doesn't really care. They're chasing something completely different. So again, these are a lot of the reasons why deals take so long, or info needed, deal risk. At the bottom, as you can see, info needed, deal risk. Maybe it's a level of risk there that may not be worth it. A property that has tremendous fire damage, it may not be good for a operator, but may be good for a wholesaler. But to do that, you would need to get more information about the rehab or whatever needs to be fixed. So you put it in that pile. Red, rejected. We have 24 rejected out of 129. Rejections is normal, especially in you in this business. You're going to get rejected. You're going to get properties in the contract. It's going to be so many things that go on because ultimately, again, it goes back to misaligned. They may be looking at $150,000 for a price, and you may be looking at it like $100,000. Fuck 150. I'll take $100,000. That's what I'm willing to buy it for. So ultimately, those are the situations why deals get rejected. If you don't like rejections, buddy, I don't think you should be in this business. Seriously. Um, traditional funding only. These were people we called on, and either they wanted to play ball, but they was like, hey, we really looking for traditional financing. In my opinion, I feel like almost everybody's looking for traditional financing because they don't have to deal with the headaches. They think it's a headache owning, like financing a property out. It's not really a headache until the shit come back. That's the only way it's a headache. But numbers that didn't work. We had 9 leads where the numbers, they just didn't work. They didn't make sense. They just didn't work. 2 under contract. Contracted warm leads. We have 7 warm leads out right now where we've spoken to, but we're either missing information or we've been set on the follow-up stage. Again, like I told you guys, different things can happen in this business. Sometimes realtors, some I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Sometimes they ducking you because shit, they already know what they seller gonna say, but they haven't directly sent it to them yet because seller financing is not the thing that most people want to do. Sometimes they really busy. People in school, people got different jobs. So this is just a side hustle on their hustle. This is just another way to make money. So you got to fit around their schedule. Or vice versa, the seller is taking a long time to look at it. It just depends on what the reality is. So we have 20 letter of intents out. That means we sent 20 offers out and we're waiting on responses. We're waiting on reply back. As I stated previously, this process, waiting on replies, it can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days to a few months, hell, even years, depending on, again, that person, the seller's search. So you have to understand that me and the realtor are not the only people in the transaction. It's me, the realtor, the seller. If the seller has a transaction team or a realtor in place, the realtor, that's another body. Then you got the broker. Then you got the inspectors, the appraisals. You see what I'm saying? It's more than just two people in this transaction. So this process can take a long time. Depending on the property you type, you looking at, you got a 7 day inspection. Some people want to just do an inspection right away as soon as they put the offer in. Hey, let me come and look at the property. It just depends on who you're talking to. Sometimes they'll let it slide. Sometimes they got tenants in place, so you got to do this. It again, a lot of this depends on the nature of the lead, and each lead is going to be different. But this video was just about, the differences of why deals take so long. Again, people be like, "Well, why your process took so long?" Again, I started in 2018. I was getting stuff under contract. I was moving and grooving, but the issue is I was running. Excuse me, I was running into problems. And they always say one head. They always say two heads is better than one. And ultimately, at that time, I was still trying to understand what the hell I got myself into. And now I understand it. That I'm able to explain it to you good. But ultimately, you know what I mean? That these are the circumstances that you run into.